My name is Tyler, and for the past 8 years, I have traversed the nooks and crannies of this vast and varied planet, seeking adventure and uncovering stories that often slip through the cracks of history. I thrive on the thrill of the unknown, the pulse of the wild, and the whispers of legends that drift through the air like the scent of pine in the forest. My travels have taken me from the sun-soaked beaches of the Caribbean to the snow-capped peaks of the Rocky Mountains, but nothing could prepare me for what awaited me in the dense, shadowy depths of Hoosier National Forest in Indiana. Hoosier National Forest is a sprawling expanse of over 200,000 acres, dotted with rolling hills, serene lakes, and winding trails that beckon hikers and nature enthusiasts alike. It's a place where the whispers of the past intertwine with the rustling leaves, a realm where the air is thick with stories waiting to be told. But among the countless tales that echo through the trees, one stands out, a dark legend that has haunted the locals and intrigued adventurers for generations: the legend of the Mirror Man. The tale of the Mirror Man is as chilling as it is captivating. According to lore, this spectral figure appears to those who dare to wander too far into the woods, particularly at dusk when the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows that dance eerily among the trees. Descriptions of the Mirror Man vary, but common threads weave through each account: a tall, shadowy figure, an unsettling presence, and most hauntingly, a face that reflects the deepest fears of those who gaze upon it. Many who have encountered the Mirror Man claim they were drawn to him, compelled by an inexplicable force. They say that once you lock eyes with this sinister being, you are forever marked. Some have reported a feeling of being watched, a chill that creeps down their spine, while others have described vivid hallucinations that blur the lines between reality and nightmare. As the stories spread, the legend morphed into a cautionary tale, warning visitors to avoid the woods after dark and to heed the signs that nature provides. Intrigued by the eerie accounts and the allure of a good story, I decided to venture into Hoosier National Forest, armed with my camera and a sense of adventure. I wanted to uncover the truth behind the Mirror Man. Was he merely a figment of overactive imaginations, or was there something more sinister lurking in the shadows? My journey began with research, poring over articles, local folklore, and first-hand accounts from those who claimed to have encountered the apparition. As I delved deeper, I discovered a community that both revered and feared the forest. Many locals shared their own experiences and whispered tales around campfires, their voices tinged with both excitement and trepidation. I learned of a group of hikers who went missing years ago, their last known location deep within the woods, and how their mysterious disappearance had fueled the legend of the Mirror Man. Each story I heard added another layer of complexity to the myth, making it all the more enticing. Equipped with this knowledge, I set out to explore the forest, driven by the thrill of the chase and the desire to document my findings. My plan was to hike the trails during the day, capturing the beauty of the landscape and the essence of the stories that permeated the air. I felt a mix of exhilaration and anxiety as I entered the forest, the towering trees standing sentinel around me, their leaves whispering secrets I was determined to uncover. As the sun descended in the sky, the forest transformed. The vibrant greens of the day faded into a tapestry of shadows, and the air grew thick with anticipation. I knew I had to remain vigilant. Many who had ventured into the woods after dark spoke of an unsettling energy that seemed to awaken the deeper, darker forces of the forest. Despite the chill creeping into the air, I pressed on, determined to document every aspect of this legendary place. With each step, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The rustling leaves and snapping twigs echoed around me, and I felt the weight of the forest pressing in. I set up camp just as twilight began to cloak the landscape, my heart racing with a mix of fear and excitement. As darkness enveloped the woods, I gathered my thoughts, recalling the stories I had heard. It was time to confront the Mirror Man. I lit a small fire to ward off the encroaching night, illuminating the space around me with flickering light. The flames danced and cast long shadows, creating an atmosphere that was equal parts comforting and unsettling. I began to record my thoughts, documenting my journey and the anticipation of what was to come. As the night deepened, strange sounds began to fill the air: the hoot of an owl, the distant rustle of leaves, and an almost imperceptible whisper that seemed to weave through the trees. As midnight approached, I felt an electric tension in the air, the kind that precedes a storm. My heart raced as I recalled the stories of those who had encountered the Mirror Man. I wondered if tonight would be the night that changed everything. Little did I know that the events that would unfold would not only test my courage, but also reshape my understanding of reality itself. What I was about to encounter in the depths of the Hoosier National Forest would forever alter the course of my life, leaving me with questions that would linger long after my return to the outside world. With every heartbeat echoing in my ears, I braced myself for the unknown, ready to confront the legend that had captivated my imagination and haunted the dreams of many before me. Hoosier National Forest sprawled across southern Indiana, like a vast green tapestry, a place where nature reigned supreme and the echoes of the past whispered through the leaves. This forest was more than just a collection of trees. It was a living entity, steeped in history and mystery. The rich biodiversity, from towering oaks to delicate wildflowers, created a habitat that thrived in serene isolation. Yet beneath the surface, it harbored legends that sent shivers down the spines of those who dared to listen. As I ventured deeper into this untamed wilderness, I found myself captivated by the sights and sounds around me. The forest was alive with the rustling of critters scurrying beneath the underbrush and the melodic calls of birds flitting between branches. But it was the stories of the people who had come before me that truly fascinated me. Each tree stood as a witness to the generations of travelers, settlers, and adventurers who had passed through, and each path held the weight of their footsteps. Among the locals, tales of the Mirror Man were often shared in hushed tones, especially in the dim light of taverns or around campfires. The inhabitants of nearby towns like Nashville and Bloomington had their own unique takes on the legend. Some claimed the Mirror Man was a guardian of the forest, a spirit meant to protect its secrets, while others believed he was a malevolent force that preyed on the fears of those who dared to enter his domain. There were whispers of lost souls who had ventured too far and never returned, swallowed by the very shadows they sought to conquer. In my quest to understand the legend, I met several key figures in the local community who helped to flesh out the world of Hoosier National Forest. One of them was Clara, an elderly woman who had lived in the area her entire life. Her weathered face told stories of its own, and her deep, knowing eyes seemed to hold the wisdom of the forest within them. Clara was a repository of local lore and had spent countless evenings recounting the legends to captivated children gathered around her porch. The Mirror Man, she would say, her voice a low whisper, isn't just a ghost. He represents the fears we carry inside us. Those who see him are confronted with their own reflections, what they hide from others and even from themselves. Her words resonated deeply with me, adding layers to my understanding of the Mirror Man. He wasn't merely a specter haunting the woods. He was a manifestation of the struggles and insecurities that every human faces. I began to ponder how my own fears would manifest should I encounter him in the dark of the forest. Another key figure in my journey was Marcus, a park ranger who had dedicated his life to protecting the forest and its inhabitants. He was a rugged man with a deep appreciation for nature, his hands calloused from years of working in the wild. Over a cup of coffee in the local diner, Marcus shared his experiences with the forest, his voice laced with both caution and intrigue. Most people don't take the legends seriously, he said, eyeing me over the rim of his mug. But I've seen things out there that I can't explain. Strange sounds, shadows moving when there's no wind. It makes you wonder what's really lurking in the depths. His words sent a chill down my spine, but I felt a strange pull toward the unknown. The forest, with all its beauty and danger, became a character in its own right, an enigmatic entity that held secrets I was determined to uncover. As I prepared for my expedition, I immersed myself in the history of Hoosier National Forest. The land had been inhabited by Native American tribes long before settlers arrived, and their stories were intertwined with the very fabric of the forest. The tales of the Shawnee and Delaware tribes, who spoke of spirits that roamed the woods, echoed in my mind as I hiked through the trails. Their reverence for nature and the supernatural added depth to my understanding of the land. I began to imagine the forest as a tapestry woven with the threads of countless lives, each person adding a unique story, each encounter shaping the legend of the Mirror Man. The forest was alive, an interactive narrative of fear, hope, and the human experience. I felt a growing sense of responsibility to honor those stories, to give voice to the legends that had been passed down through generations. As dusk began to creep into the sky, painting it with hues of orange and purple, I found a secluded clearing where I decided to set up camp. The air turned cool, and the sounds of the forest shifted, becoming more pronounced. The rustle of leaves, the distant call of a whippoorwill, and the soft croaking of frogs created a symphony of nature that both comforted and unnerved me. It was here, in this tranquil yet foreboding space, that I took a moment to reflect on my journey. I thought of Clara and her insights about the Mirror Man, of Marcus's warnings, and of the stories that had led me to this point. The reality of my situation began to sink in. I was not merely an observer of a legend, but a participant in a narrative that was unfolding around me. As night fell, the shadows lengthened, and the forest transformed. The familiar became alien, and I felt an electric tension in the air, a sensation that something was watching me. With a mix of fear and excitement, I realized that I was on the brink of confronting not just the Mirror Man, but my own fears and insecurities. The forest was no longer just a backdrop. It was a living, breathing entity that demanded my respect and attention. With my heart racing and my senses heightened, I prepared myself for what lay ahead. I was ready to delve into the darkness, to face the legend that had captivated my imagination and haunted the dreams of so many before me. Little did I know that the experience would challenge my understanding of reality and reshape my life in ways I could never have anticipated. As I settled in for the night, surrounded by the sounds of the wild, I felt both vulnerable and empowered. The forest was alive with possibilities, and I was ready to uncover its secrets, one shadow at a time. As darkness enveloped Hoosier National Forest, the shadows stretched and twisted, wrapping around the trees like ghostly fingers. I sat by the flickering campfire, its flames dancing against the backdrop of the looming woods. My heart raced with anticipation, a mixture of excitement and trepidation coursing through my veins. I had come seeking adventure, but as the night deepened, I felt the weight of the forest pressing in around me, and the legend of the Mirror Man loomed larger than ever. The air was thick with tension, almost electric, and I could sense that I was not alone. The stories shared by Clara and Marcus echoed in my mind, warning me of the dangers that awaited those who dared to cross paths with the Mirror Man. It was said that he fed off fear, drawing power from the very insecurities that plagued the souls who stumbled upon him. As I gazed into the flames, I couldn't help but wonder what fears lay hidden within me, waiting to be unearthed in this darkened realm. Suddenly, a rustle in the underbrush snapped me out of my thoughts. My pulse quickened as I turned toward the sound, straining my ears for any sign of movement. The forest was alive with nocturnal creatures, but this sound felt different, more deliberate, more purposeful. Every instinct screamed at me to pack my things and leave, but the thrill of the unknown held me captive. I felt drawn to the source of the sound, compelled by a force I couldn't quite understand. With a mixture of fear and curiosity, I stood up, the crackle of twigs beneath my feet breaking the stillness. I clutched my flashlight tightly, its beam slicing through the darkness. As I moved cautiously toward the sound, I recalled the warnings. Never approach the mirror man, never look him in the eye. But the thrill of uncovering the truth outweighed my fear. I needed to confront this legend, to know if there was any truth behind the stories. The rustling grew louder, and I could see a silhouette moving among the trees, a dark figure that seemed to dance with the shadows. As I drew closer, my heart thundered in my chest, and I felt a cold sweat break out on my brow. Was it the mirror man? My breath hitched in my throat, and I fought the urge to flee as the figure came into clearer view. To my surprise, it was not the mirror man at all, but a deer, startled by my presence. It bounded away into the night, its white tail flicking like a warning beacon. I let out a shaky breath, my pulse slowing as I realized I had let my imagination run wild. Yet, the encounter had stirred something within me, a realization that the forest played tricks on the mind, amplifying fears and uncertainties. Feeling a mix of relief and frustration, I returned to my campsite, but the unease had settled deeper into my bones. The forest felt more alive than before, every rustle and whisper fueling my growing anxiety. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that unseen eyes were tracking my every move. The legend of the mirror man was no longer just a story. It had become a palpable presence, entwined with the very fabric of the night. As the hours passed and the fire burned low, I found myself lost in thought, teetering on the edge of clarity and confusion. I thought about Clara's words regarding the mirror man reflecting one's innermost fears. What would my reflection reveal? What shadows lurked within me that I had yet to confront? The questions gnawed at me, pulling me deeper into my own psyche. Just when I thought I had calmed the storm within, a chilling gust of wind swept through the clearing, extinguishing the flames of my campfire. The sudden darkness enveloped me, and panic surged through me like ice water. I fumbled for my flashlight, its beam flickering to life. Just as I felt a presence behind me, a sudden chill ran down my spine. I turned slowly, my heart pounding in my chest, and there he was, the mirror man. He stood at the edge of the clearing, a tall, shadowy figure that seemed to merge with the darkness surrounding him. His face was obscured, but I could feel his gaze piercing through the gloom, locking onto mine with an intensity that stole my breath away. In that moment, the tales of his power flooded back to me. They said that once you locked eyes with him, you would be forced to confront the deepest fears you had buried within. I felt a surge of terror wash over me, and yet I couldn't look away. My mind raced with the possibilities of what he could show me: my insecurities, my failures, the moments that had shaped who I was. The air grew thick with tension, and time seemed to slow as I stood frozen in place, caught in the web of his gaze. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears, drowning out the sounds of the forest. Fear coursed through me, and I struggled to maintain my composure. I had come here to face the legend, to seek out the truth. But now that I was standing before the embodiment of my darkest fears, I questioned if I was truly ready for what lay ahead. Suddenly, the mirror man stepped forward, the shadows swirling around him as he moved. My instincts screamed at me to run, to escape this nightmare, but something held me in place. Was it curiosity, or was it an unexplainable connection to this figure? As he approached, the darkness seemed to part, revealing glimpses of a past I had long tried to forget. Images began to flash before my eyes, memories of failure, moments of insecurity, and the echoes of voices that had haunted me for years. I saw myself standing on the edge of a cliff, paralyzed by fear of falling. I felt the weight of expectations that had crushed my spirit and the loneliness that had shadowed me in my travels. The Mirror Man was not merely a figure of terror. He was a reflection of everything I had tried to hide from myself. Each image was a dagger, piercing through the fog I had built to protect my heart. The realization that I had been running from these truths for so long sent waves of anguish crashing over me. As I stood there, trapped in the grip of my fears, a choice loomed before me: to succumb to the darkness or to confront it head-on. The Mirror Man, in all his haunting glory, was not my enemy. He was a guide, a catalyst for change. In that moment of clarity, I understood that I had the power to rewrite my own story. Summoning every ounce of courage, I took a step forward, breaking the spell that had held me captive. "I am not afraid of you," I declared, my voice trembling but resolute. "You may show me my fears, but I will not let them define me." The shadows around the Mirror Man flickered, and for the first time, I saw a glimmer of something in his gaze: acknowledgement, perhaps even respect. The air shifted, and the oppressive weight of fear began to lift. As I stood before him, I realized that the true battle was not with the Mirror Man himself, but with the darkness within me. In that moment, a profound understanding washed over me. The forest was a reflection of my journey, a labyrinth of fears waiting to be faced. I had come seeking adventure, but what I found was a deeper connection to myself. The Mirror Man, a figure of legend, had challenged me to confront my past and embrace the light within the darkness. With newfound determination, I faced the shadows once more, ready to reclaim my narrative. My journey through Hoosier National Forest had only just begun, and as I stood before the Mirror Man, I felt the first stirrings of hope. I would not turn away from the darkness. I would embrace it and emerge stronger on the other side. As I stood before the Mirror Man, confronting my deepest fears and insecurities, I began to grasp the complexity of my own journey and how it intertwined with the broader narrative of Hoosier National Forest. This wasn't just a simple tale of an adventurer facing a local legend. It was a profound exploration of the human experience, revealing the intricate web of connections that bind us all. To fully appreciate the conflict I faced, it was essential to delve into the subplots that surrounded the legend of the Mirror Man. The stories told by Clara and other locals were filled with nuances that reflected their own struggles and fears. For instance, Clara had lost her husband years ago while he was hunting in the forest. Many believed he had encountered the Mirror Man, but Clara insisted that he had simply lost his way. Yet, her grief made it clear that the forest held a duality, both a source of solace and a reminder of loss. Her tale echoed the sentiment that sometimes the things we fear most are not the monsters lurking in the shadows, but the memories and emotions we carry with us. Similarly, Marcus, a young man I met during my travels, had his own complex relationship with the forest. He was a local guide who had grown up hearing the tales of the Mirror Man. His father had gone missing in the woods under mysterious circumstances, leaving behind a legacy of fear that haunted their family. Marcus sought to confront the legend, hoping to find answers to the questions that had plagued him for years. His story intertwined with mine, creating a shared narrative of seeking nature, can be both nurturing and terrifying. It was a reflection of the inner turmoil I faced as I confronted the Mirror Man. Just as the forest could shift from peaceful to perilous, so too could my emotions fluctuate from hope to despair. This complexity added depth to my journey, transforming it from a mere physical adventure to a deeply personal exploration of fear, loss, and resilience. As I navigated the forest, I became increasingly aware of the subplots that revolved around the search for truth, both external and internal. My quest to uncover the reality of the Mirror Man intersected with Marcus's journey to find out what had happened to his father. We shared our stories around the campfire, our voices mingling with the sounds of the forest. In those moments, I realized that our pursuit of truth was not merely about confronting a legend. It was about understanding ourselves and our place in the world. Marcus expressed his frustration at the inability of the townspeople to confront the reality of the forest's dangers. They were content to spin tales of the Mirror Man, using folklore as a coping mechanism for their grief and loss. This struck a chord with me. I had also been using the thrill of adventure to distract myself from the emotional turmoil that lay beneath the surface. Our conversations became a catalyst for reflection, urging me to examine my own motivations and the reasons I sought out these experiences. As the legend of the Mirror Man unfolded, it became evident that fear and courage were not opposing forces, but rather two sides of the same coin. My encounters with the Mirror Man served as a lens through which I could explore this concept. Each time I faced my fears, I discovered an inner strength I hadn't known existed. The complexities of my character deepened as I learned to embrace the discomfort of vulnerability. This theme was echoed in Marcus's journey as well. He had spent years running from the fear of losing another loved one, shying away from the forest that had claimed his father. But through our shared experiences, he began to recognize that confronting his fears was essential to finding closure. The forest, once a place of terror for him, transformed into a space of healing and growth as he learned to navigate its depths. The relationships I formed during my time in Hoosier National Forest added another layer of complexity to the narrative. Clara, Marcus, and I were all interconnected in our struggles, bound by the common thread of fear and the desire for understanding. Our individual stories intertwined, creating a tapestry of experiences that enriched the overall narrative. As we shared our fears and hopes, I began to see the power of community in overcoming personal demons. Clara's wisdom, rooted in years of experience, offered solace and perspective. Her stories of resilience inspired me to confront my own struggles, while Marcus's determination to uncover the truth encouraged me to embrace vulnerability. Together, we formed a bond that transcended our individual journeys, highlighting the importance of connection in the face of adversity. As I continued to navigate the complexities of my journey, I realized that the development of the conflict was not merely about facing the Mirror Man, but also about embracing the intricacies of my own life. The forest, with its myriad stories and characters, had become a mirror reflecting my own fears, hopes, and desires. The subplots surrounding Clara and Marcus enriched my understanding of the human experience, emphasizing that we are all shaped by our pasts and the legends we choose to believe. The forest served as a backdrop for our collective struggles, a reminder that while the journey may be fraught with challenges, it is also filled with moments of beauty and connection. Through these experiences, I learned that the path to understanding oneself is rarely straightforward. It is often filled with detours, unexpected encounters, and the need to confront uncomfortable truths. As I prepared to face the Mirror Man once more, I felt a renewed sense of purpose, armed with the knowledge that I was not alone on this journey. The complexities of our lives intertwined, creating a rich narrative that would ultimately lead us to a place of healing and growth. In the heart of Hoosier National Forest, I found not only a legend, but a deeper understanding of myself and the intricate web of relationships that shape our existence. As the night deepened and the stars twinkled above, I felt ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, knowing that the journey was just as important as the destination. The night was thick with anticipation as I stood at the edge of a clearing in Hoosier National Forest. The air was heavy, charged with an energy that felt almost palpable. Shadows danced in the moonlight, and the whispering leaves seemed to echo the legends I had heard. It was here, in this crucible of fear and uncertainty, that I would confront the Mirror Man, an encounter that would forever alter the trajectory of my life. As I took a deep breath, I remembered the stories shared by Clara and Marcus. Each had recounted their own brushes with the supernatural, their voices a blend of fear and wonder. Clara had spoken of the times she felt her husband's presence in the forest, while Marcus had recounted the chilling moments when he thought he'd seen his father's silhouette among the trees. Their experiences emphasized a crucial point. The Mirror Man was not merely a ghostly figure. He embodied the fears and unresolved emotions that haunted us all. With my flashlight in hand, I stepped into the clearing, the beam cutting through the darkness like a knife. My heart raced, each beat echoing the stories that had built up in my mind. I could feel the weight of the forest pressing down on me, as if it were a living entity, watching, waiting. I had come seeking proof of the legend, but I was beginning to realize that what lay ahead was something much deeper, a confrontation with my own fears. Suddenly, a chill swept through the clearing, extinguishing the warmth of my resolve. The flashlight flickered, casting erratic shadows that twisted and writhed as if alive. I felt a cold breeze brush past me, and in that moment, I knew the Mirror Man was near. My breath caught in my throat as I strained my eyes, trying to pierce the darkness. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw him, a shadowy figure standing among the trees, watching me. The sight sent a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. I froze, every instinct urging me to turn and flee. But I reminded myself of the importance of facing fears head-on. Clara's words echoed in my mind. You must confront the darkness to find the light, gathering my courage. I took a hesitant step forward, my heart pounding in my chest. As I approached the figure, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread and anticipation. The Mirror Man loomed larger than life, his features obscured by shadows. He stood silent, motionless, as if waiting for me to make the next move. I was acutely aware of the stories surrounding him, the tales of those who had looked into his eyes and been consumed by their own fears. I had heard that the moment you lock eyes with the Mirror Man, you're confronted with your darkest thoughts. The very essence of your insecurities laid bare. Who are you? I called out, my voice trembling but resolute. The words echoed through the clearing, swallowed by the silence of the forest. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the figure began to shift, and I felt an unnatural pull toward him. A magnetic force drawing me closer. Do you truly wish to know? The voice that emerged was a low, resonant whisper, echoing from the depths of my own consciousness. It was both inviting and repulsive, a paradox that sent shivers down my spine. I hesitated, grappling with the choice before me. Did I truly want to face the manifestation of my fears? But as I stood there, the weight of my unresolved struggles pressed heavily on my mind. The fear of failure, the anxiety of not living up to expectations, the haunting memories of loss, all of these thoughts swirled within me, threatening to overwhelm my resolve. I realized that this moment was not just about confronting a legend. It was about confronting myself. I'm not afraid, I declared, though I could feel the tremor in my voice betraying my bravado. Show me what you are. The Mirror Man stepped forward, and as he did, the shadows shifted, revealing a face that mirrored my own, a distorted reflection of my fears and insecurities. It was disorienting. The visage staring back at me was both familiar and terrifying. In that moment, I understood. He was not just a manifestation of my fears, but a reflection of my life's struggles, a mirror held up to my soul. You seek adventure, yet you fear the unknown, the Mirror Man intoned, his voice echoing with wisdom and menace. You crave connection, but you hide from vulnerability. You yearn for success while fearing failure. These are your truths, Tyler. Each word struck like a hammer against glass, shattering the illusions I had built around myself. My heart raced as I grappled with the reality of his insights. He was right. For too long, I had used adventure as an escape, a way to run from the deeper issues that plagued me. The thrill of discovering new places had masked my fear of confronting my inner turmoil. The clearing fell silent as I stood there, confronted by the weight of my own truths. It was a moment of reckoning, a turning point that demanded I embrace the complexity of my existence. The mirror man continued to loom before me, his face shifting between fearsome and familiar, a constant reminder of the shadows I had tried to outrun. "Face me," he urged, "and find your strength with a newfound determination." I stepped forward, forcing myself to look directly into his eyes. The darkness enveloped me, and in that instant, I was flooded with memories, moments of joy, of pain, of triumph, and of failure. Each memory washed over me like a tide, each one revealing a piece of the puzzle that made me who I was. I felt exposed, vulnerable, but also liberated. "I am not just my fears," I finally said, my voice steady. "I am my experiences, my relationships, my journey. I will not let fear define me." As those words left my lips, the mirror man seemed to waver, his form flickering like a candle in the wind. The shadows around us began to dissolve, and I felt a warmth enveloping me, dispelling the cold that had gripped my heart. It was as if the forest itself breathed a sigh of relief, acknowledging my acceptance of the truth. "You have taken the first step," the mirror man said, his voice now softer, more resonant. "To confront your fears is to reclaim your power. Remember, Tyler, the shadows will always exist, but it is your choice to let them guide you or to rise above them." With those final words, the mirror man began to fade, his figure dissolving into the night like mist before dawn. I stood there, breathing heavily, awash with a sense of clarity and purpose. The darkness that had once felt so suffocating began to recede, replaced by the realization that I could embrace my fears without being consumed by them. As I turned to leave the clearing, I felt a profound shift within me. The journey ahead would still be fraught with challenges. But now, armed with the knowledge of my own strength, I felt ready to face whatever lay in store. The mirror man had taught me that true courage lies not in the absence of fear, but in the willingness to confront it head-on. As I made my way back through the forest, the path illuminated by the soft glow of the moon, I understood that my journey was far from over. The turning point I had experienced was merely the beginning of a deeper exploration of self. I was no longer just a traveler seeking adventure. I was a seeker of truth, ready to embrace the complexities of life and the myriad stories that awaited me in the heart of Hoosier National Forest. As I emerged from the campfire welcomed me like an old friend. I sat down on a log, staring into the fire as the memories of my encounter danced in the flames. I reflected on Marcus and Clara, the stories they shared, and how their experiences intertwined with my own. I couldn't shake the feeling that my journey had just begun. It was time to share my insights with others, to help them confront their own fears and find their paths. The following days were filled with contemplation and a renewed sense of purpose. I spent time exploring the forest, but this time with a different lens. Instead of viewing it purely as a backdrop for adventure, I began to see the intricate connections between the land and the people who inhabited it. I took note of the diverse flora and fauna, the hidden streams, and the ancient trees that had stood witness to countless stories. Each element of the forest became a part of the narrative I was eager to share. As I returned to the nearby towns, I found myself drawn to the local community. I sought out Clara and Marcus, eager to share my experience and learn more about their own journeys. Clara welcomed me into her home, her eyes filled with curiosity as I recounted my encounter with the Mirror Man. She listened intently, nodding in understanding, and I could see the spark of recognition in her gaze. "Your story resonates with me, Tyler," Clara said softly. "I've spent so long mourning my husband, believing that darkness was the only way forward. But perhaps, like you, I need to confront my fears and find a new path. Her words struck a chord within me, and I realized that my encounter had not only transformed my own life, but had also sparked a shift in others. Marcus, too, was eager to hear about my experience. When I shared how the Mirror Man had revealed the complexities of my fears, he nodded thoughtfully. "I've always felt that the forest held answers to my father's disappearance," he confessed. "But I never considered that confronting my fears might help me find peace. Perhaps I've been looking in the wrong places." Together, we began to discuss the importance of storytelling and connection. We realized that sharing our experiences could create a supportive community where others could confront their own struggles. Inspired by our conversations, I proposed starting a local group focused on storytelling and personal growth. A space where individuals could share their fears and triumphs in a safe environment. As word spread about our initiative, more people began to join our gatherings. Clara, Marcus, and I became the core of a burgeoning community, each meeting filled with laughter, tears, and the catharsis of shared stories. We explored not only the legend of the Mirror Man, but also the fears that haunted our everyday lives: fear of failure, fear of loss, and fear of vulnerability. The reactions from those in attendance were profound. Many participants expressed their gratitude for the opportunity to share their experiences, feeling a sense of relief as they voiced the fears that had long been buried. One woman spoke of her struggle with anxiety, describing how it had prevented her from pursuing her dreams. Another man shared his battle with grief after losing a loved one, a pain that had kept him isolated for far too long. After each meeting, I felt a sense of fulfillment wash over me. It was clear that confronting our fears collectively had a powerful impact. The stories we shared created bonds of trust and understanding, and slowly but surely, individuals began to embrace their vulnerabilities. It was a ripple effect. One story led to another, and as we collectively faced our fears, the weight of the darkness lessened. The community flourished, and with it, I felt a sense of purpose that I had never known before. I was no longer just a traveler seeking adventure. I had become a guide of sorts, helping others navigate their own journeys through the forest of fears that lay within. This newfound role brought its own challenges, as I often found myself grappling with my own insecurities while supporting others. However, I learned to embrace this complexity and use it to foster deeper connections. As the seasons changed, so did the dynamics of our group. We began organizing hiking trips into Hoosier National Forest, combining our love for nature with the healing power of shared experiences. Each trek became an opportunity for reflection, allowing participants to confront the fears they had discussed in our meetings. The forest, once a place of dread for some, transformed into a sanctuary of growth and healing. Yet, the shadow of the Mirror Man still lingered in the background, a reminder of what lay beneath the surface. During one of our hikes, as we reached a serene overlook, I found myself reflecting on the fear that had brought us together. The forest was no longer just a setting for our stories. It had become a living testament to our struggles and triumphs. On one particularly poignant hike, a young woman named Sarah opened up about her fear of failure and the impact it had on her relationships. "I feel like I'm always running from my past," she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm terrified of letting people down. What if I'm not good enough?" In that moment, I realized the Mirror Man's shadow still cast its influence. I shared my own experience, how facing my fears had allowed me to embrace my imperfections. "You are enough, just as you are," I told her. "We all have our scars and they make us human. The key is not to run from them, but to acknowledge and embrace them." As I spoke, I could see the flicker of understanding in her eyes. The group rallied around her, offering support and encouragement, and I felt a profound sense of connection among us. Together, we were more than just individuals sharing stories. We were a community bound by our shared humanity and the complexities of life. The consequences of my encounter with the Mirror Man had ripple effects far beyond my own transformation. It became clear that facing our fears both individually and collectively could lead to healing, growth, and connection. As we continued to share our stories, we built a foundation of trust and resilience that empowered us to navigate the challenges of life with newfound strength. In the heart of Hoosier National Forest, the legend of the Mirror Man had evolved from a tale of terror into a catalyst for personal growth and community connection. Through the power of storytelling, we had turned fear into a source of strength, transforming the very essence of what it meant to confront our shadows. As I stood among my newfound friends, I felt a sense of belonging and purpose, knowing that we were all on this journey together, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The journey through Hoosier National Forest had transformed me in ways I had never anticipated. What began as a quest to uncover the legend of the Mirror Man had evolved into a profound exploration of self and community. As I stood on the edge of the forest, reflecting on how far I had come, I realized that overcoming fear wasn't just about facing the unknown. It was about embracing vulnerability and allowing that experience to shape who we are. In the months following my encounter with the Mirror Man, I became increasingly aware of how my relationship with fear had changed. It was no longer a paralyzing force. Instead, it had morphed into a catalyst for growth and connection. Each story shared during our gatherings had woven a tapestry of courage, revealing the myriad ways individuals had faced their own demons. We had all come to understand that fear, while often suffocating, could also be a powerful teacher. One of the most significant changes occurred within myself. No longer was I merely a traveler seeking adventure. I had become a steward of stories. I began to embrace my role in the community, organizing events that encouraged others to share their experiences. The healing power of storytelling became evident as more people joined our circle, each with their unique narrative, each seeking understanding and support. Among those who joined our gatherings was Sarah, the young woman who had opened up about her fear of failure. With each meeting, I watched her grow more confident. At first, she would speak softly, her words laced with uncertainty. But as the weeks turned into months, I saw her transformation. She began to share her aspirations and dreams, no longer overshadowed by the fear of letting others down. Encouraged by the support of our group, she took steps to pursue her passion for art, an ambition she had long kept hidden. During one particularly memorable evening, Sarah displayed a series of paintings she had created. Each piece reflected her journey through fear and vulnerability, capturing the essence of the emotions she had once struggled to express. As she stood before us, sharing the stories behind her work, I could see the pride radiating from her. The transformation was palpable, not just in her confidence, but in the way she connected with the members of our community. "Art has always been a part of me," she said, her voice steady. "But I was afraid to show it because I thought it wouldn't be good enough. Now I realize that it's not about perfection. It's about expressing who I am. Thank you all for helping me find my voice." Her words resonated deeply within me. It was a reminder that overcoming fear is not just an individual journey, but a collective one. Together, we had created a space where vulnerability could flourish and where each person's story mattered. In this environment, we were learning to embrace our imperfections, understanding that they were what made us truly human. Marcus, too, had undergone a significant transformation. Initially burdened by the weight of his father's disappearance, he began sharing his own stories during our gatherings. With each narrative, he peeled back layers of pain and uncertainty, confronting the fears that had held him captive for so long. Instead of dwelling on loss, he found strength in his memories, choosing to celebrate his father's life rather than mourn his absence. One evening, Marcus led a discussion about the importance of memory and legacy. "I used to think of my father's disappearance as a tragedy," he shared, his voice steady yet emotional. "But now, I realize it's an opportunity to honor his memory and keep his spirit alive through the stories I share. Fear doesn't have to define us. It can propel us toward growth." His insights sparked a profound conversation among the group, as others began to reflect on their own relationships with loss and memory. We explored how, by confronting our fears head-on, we could transform pain into purpose. The atmosphere buzzed with energy as participants shared stories of loved ones who had inspired them to overcome obstacles, each narrative reinforcing the idea that we were stronger together. As the seasons changed, our community continued to flourish. We organized nature walks, art workshops, and storytelling nights, all centered around the theme of overcoming fear and embracing growth. Each event provided an opportunity for members to connect with one another, fostering an environment where vulnerability was met with compassion and understanding. One of the most impactful events was a weekend retreat in the heart of Hoosier National Forest. We gathered in a rustic cabin surrounded by the towering trees, a place that had once felt intimidating, but now felt like home. The retreat was designed as a safe space for participants to delve deeper into their fears, explore their emotions, and support one another in their journeys. During the retreat, we held a series of workshops focused on personal reflection and growth. Each participant was encouraged to share their story, and I was amazed by the courage displayed in that room. We listened intently as individuals recounted their struggles, insecurities, and triumphs. The atmosphere was charged with empathy, and for many, it felt like the first time they had truly been heard. One particularly poignant moment occurred when a middle-aged man named David spoke about his lifelong battle with anxiety. "For years, I've allowed my fear to dictate my choices," he admitted, his voice trembling. "I've missed out on so many opportunities and pushed away the people I love. I want to change that, but I don't know where to start." As David shared his story, the room fell silent, the weight of his vulnerability hanging in the air. One by one, people began to offer encouragement and support. We shared our own experiences with anxiety, and slowly but surely, David began to realize that he was not alone. By the end of the retreat, he expressed a sense of relief and hope. "Thank you all for helping me see that I can take steps forward, even if they're small," he said, tears in his eyes. "I'm ready to face my fears." The emotional release that accompanied these discussions was palpable. We forged connections that transcended the boundaries of fear and insecurity, and I witnessed firsthand the transformative power of community. By creating a space where people could share their stories, we had fostered an environment of acceptance and understanding that encouraged growth. As the retreat came to a close, I felt a sense of fulfillment wash over me. I had come to Hoosier National Forest seeking adventure, and had instead discovered the incredible strength that lies within vulnerability. My encounter with the Mirror Man had been the catalyst for my own journey of growth, but it had also sparked a movement that empowered others to confront their fears and embrace their true selves. In the months that followed, our community continued to thrive. We expanded our initiatives, reaching out to others in nearby towns who might benefit from our support. Our gatherings grew in number, and the stories we shared became a source of inspiration for those who felt lost in their own struggles. Through this journey, I learned that overcoming fear is not a destination, but a continuous process. Each story shared, each connection made, added to the tapestry of our lives, reinforcing the idea that we are all in this together. The Mirror Man, once a figure of terror, had transformed into a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, we have the power to illuminate our paths through the strength of our shared experiences. As I stood at the edge of the forest, looking out at the familiar landscape, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. Hoosier National Forest had become more than just a backdrop for my adventures. It had become a sanctuary of growth, healing, and connection. I was no longer just a traveler. I was a storyteller, a guide, and a member of a vibrant community that embraced the complexities of life. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but I welcomed it with open arms. Together, we would continue to confront our fears, support one another, and celebrate the beauty of our shared humanity. The legend of the Mirror Man had woven itself into our lives, reminding us that we are stronger when we face our fears together. And in that strength, we found the courage to grow, to love, and to live fully. As the seasons continued to shift in Hoosier National Forest, the once familiar landscape transformed into a vibrant tapestry of colors. Autumn had arrived, casting a golden hue over the trees and filling the air with the crisp scent of fallen leaves. Yet, amidst the beauty of nature, a palpable tension lingered, an unspoken anticipation that something significant was on the horizon. Our community had grown stronger and more interconnected, but with that growth came a deepening awareness of the fears that still resided within us. While many had made strides in confronting their personal struggles, there remained a collective unease about the legend of the Mirror Man. Stories of his presence continued to circulate among the townsfolk, and whispers of new encounters began to surface. It felt as if the forest was preparing for a reckoning, an event that would demand each of us to confront the very essence of our fears. In the weeks leading up to the climactic moment, I sensed a shift in the atmosphere. The gatherings we held took on a more serious tone, as members of our community began to express their concerns about the Mirror Man. Some argued that we should confront him directly, seeking closure for the fears that had haunted us for so long. Others warned against provoking a spirit that had the power to consume us. This division created an undercurrent of tension, as each person grappled with their own interpretation of the legend and its implications. During one particularly intense gathering, we found ourselves seated around the fire, the flames flickering in the cool evening air. Clara, with her wisdom and experience, took the lead in addressing the group. "We've all come a long way in our journeys," she began, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "But the legend of the Mirror Man represents more than just a ghost in the woods. It stands as a metaphor for the fears we carry within us. If we are to confront him, we must first confront ourselves." Her words resonated deeply, and the room fell silent as we contemplated the weight of what she was saying. Over the past months, we had shared our stories, learned from one another, and built a community rooted in support. But now, the time had come to put our words into action. We could not simply talk about our fears. We had to face them head on. Marcus, sitting across from Clara, spoke up. "I agree, Clara. We can't let fear dictate our lives any longer. The Mirror Man has drawn power from our insecurities, and it's time we take that power back." His conviction stirred something within the group, igniting a sense of determination. We had all experienced growth, but now we needed to channel that growth into a collective effort to confront the source of our fears. As the conversation deepened, we began to formulate a plan. We decided to organize a night expedition into the heart of Hoosier National Forest, a symbolic journey to face the Mirror Man together. Each person would prepare in their own way, whether it meant reflecting on their personal fears, writing letters to the Mirror Man, or creating artifacts that represented their struggles. The goal was to confront not only the legend, but the very fears that had held us captive for so long. In the days leading up to the expedition, I found myself immersed in preparation. I took long walks through the forest, allowing the sights and sounds to ground me. The rustling leaves and distant calls of wildlife reminded me of the beauty that coexisted alongside fear. I also spent time journaling, putting my thoughts and emotions onto paper. I reflected on my encounter with the mirror man, recalling the lessons I had learned and the fears I still needed to confront. I spoke with Clara about my experiences, sharing my doubts and hopes for the upcoming expedition. What if the mirror man is more than just a reflection of our fears? I asked, my voice tinged with uncertainty. What if he is a force we cannot control? Clara nodded thoughtfully. That's a valid concern, Tyler. But remember, we've grown stronger together. We've learned to support one another, and that strength will be our guiding light. If we face him as a united front, we can redefine what he represents. He doesn't have to be an enemy. He can be a teacher, a reminder of what we've overcome. Her words resonated deeply, and I began to embrace the idea that the mirror man could indeed serve as a guide rather than a foe. Together, we would transform our fears into a source of empowerment, allowing us to reclaim our lives. As the day of the expedition approached, I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The forest, once a place of mystery and trepidation, now felt like a sanctuary of growth and understanding. As the sun began to set on the evening of our expedition, the group gathered at the edge of the forest, each person holding their own token, a letter, a drawing, or a small object that represented their fears. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, and I could see the determination etched on each face. We formed a circle, holding hands, grounding ourselves in the collective energy of our community. Tonight, we face not only the mirror man, but also the fears that have held us back for far too long, I said, my voice steady. Let's remember that we are not alone in this journey. Together, we can redefine the narrative, transforming fear into strength. As we stepped into the forest, the moonlight illuminated our path, casting ethereal shadows among the trees. The familiar sounds of the forest enveloped us, reminding me that we were part of something larger than ourselves. The deeper we ventured, the more palpable the energy became, as if the forest itself was aware of our purpose. With Clara leading the way, we navigated through the familiar trails, each step resonating with purpose and intention. The air felt charged with anticipation, and I could sense the weight of our collective fears hanging in the balance. We paused at a clearing, a space that felt sacred and significant, and prepared to confront the mirror man. As we settled into the clearing, I could feel the tension building within me. My heart raced, and I took a deep breath, reminding myself of Clara's words. We were here to redefine our fears, to transform the mirror man from a figure of terror into a symbol of our growth. Let's take a moment to reflect, Clara suggested, her voice calm yet firm. Close your eyes and visualize what you want to confront tonight. Acknowledge your fear, but also recognize the strength within you to overcome it. As I closed my eyes, I focused on the image of the mirror man, the dark figure that had haunted my thoughts. I acknowledged the fear he represented, the insecurities that had held me back. But simultaneously, I visualized the strength I had gained through my journey and the support of my community. In that moment, I felt a surge of empowerment, a realization that I could rewrite my narrative. As we opened our eyes, I saw the determination reflected in the faces of those around me. We were ready to confront the mirror man, ready to embrace our fears, and ready to emerge stronger than ever before. The climax of our journey was upon us, and as we stood together in the heart of the forest, I knew that we were prepared to face whatever lay ahead. The night was still, and the air thick with anticipation. We had come to this moment as individuals, but we would leave as a united force, embodying the courage to face our personal fears and the strength to support one another in the process. As the wind rustled through the trees, I felt a sense of hope swell within me, a belief that we could redefine the legend of the Mirror Man together, with hearts full of courage and a shared purpose guiding us. We took our first steps toward the unknown, ready to confront the shadows and emerge into the light. The clearing was bathed in moonlight, its ethereal glow illuminating the faces of my companions as we stood united against the impending confrontation. The air was thick with anticipation, a stillness that felt almost reverent. Each of us held our tokens close, a physical manifestation of our fears, ready to confront the embodiment of those fears, the Mirror Man. As we gathered in a circle, Clara's voice broke the silence. Tonight, we confront not just a legend, but the shadows that linger within us. We've come together as a community, our doubts and the burdens we carried. Sarah spoke of her fear of failure, the anxiety that had kept her from pursuing her art. Marcus shared his longing for closure regarding his father's disappearance, while Clara reflected on her enduring grief. Each revelation added depth to our collective strength, creating a tapestry of vulnerability that bound us together. As the last person spoke, a deep silence settled over the clearing. It was as if the forest itself was listening, waiting for the moment when we would confront the Mirror Man. I felt a shiver run down my spine, a mixture of fear and anticipation. The legend loomed large in my mind, a figure cloaked in darkness, a reflection of all that I had avoided. But in this moment, surrounded by my community, I felt a flicker of courage ignite within me. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves and sending a chill through the clearing. And together, we will stand against the darkness. Her words echoed in the stillness, resonating deeply within me and igniting a sense of purpose. With a shared determination, we began to speak, each person voicing their fears aloud. One by one, we took turns sharing what we had brought to the clearing, our insecurities. A sound that sent chills through me. You think you can reclaim what you never truly owned. Fear is a part of you, woven into the fabric of your existence. I am not your enemy. I am your truth. His words cut deep, and I felt the weight of their meaning. He was right. Fear had been an inseparable part of my life. My heart pounded as shadows danced around us, and I could feel the presence of the Mirror Man drawing near. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, bracing for the encounter that was about to unfold. The figure emerged from the depths of the trees, a silhouette cloaked in darkness. As he stepped into the moonlight, it had dictated my choices, shaped my identity, and held me captive in a web of self-doubt. But as I looked around at my friends, I realized that I was no longer alone. We had come together to confront this darkness, and in doing so, we could redefine our relationship with fear. I don't want you to control me anymore, I shouted, surprising even myself with the fierceness of my voice. I am more than my fears. We are more than our fears. The Mirror Man's expression shifted, a flicker of curiosity crossing his face. You think you can simply will me away? I am a reflection of all that you have hidden from yourself. If you wish to banish me. I was struck by the sight of him. His form was tall and imposing, his face obscured by shadows. Yet, there was something unsettlingly familiar about him. It was as if he were a reflection of every fear I had ever faced, an amalgamation of my insecurities, doubts, and regrets. Why do you disturb my domain? The Mirror Man's voice resonated through the clearing. I stepped forward, my heart racing. What do you want me to see? Show me what I've been afraid to confront. My voice rang with conviction, and I felt the energy of my companions rallying behind me. The Mirror Man's features began to shimmer and shift, morphing into a series of images that played out before us. I saw moments from my life, the times I had hesitated to take risks, the opportunities I had let slip away, and the relationships I had allowed to falter due to fear. Each image felt like a weight pressing down on my chest, yet I refused to look away. This was my truth, my reality, and I was ready to acknowledge it. You must first confront what lies within. At that moment, I felt a surge of determination. I had spent far too long running from my fears, allowing them to shape my identity. But I had not come this far to retreat into the shadows again. It was time to face the truth, to look into the depths of my fears and emerge stronger for it. As the images continued to unfold, I began to understand the patterns that had governed my life. Fear had kept me from pursuing my dreams, from expressing myself fully, and from connecting with others. But in that moment of clarity, I also recognized the strength I had gained from facing those fears. Deep and echoing. It felt as if the very ground beneath us trembled at his words. "What do you seek in the heart of my darkness?" My companions tensed at his presence, but Clara stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "We seek not to disturb, but to confront. We are here to face our fears, to reclaim the power you've held over us for too long." Power? The mirror man chuckled. The resilience that had emerged from the struggle. "I see you," I declared, my voice steady. "You are a part of me, but you do not define me. I choose to rise above you, to learn from you instead of allowing you to control me." The air crackled with energy as the mirror man's expression shifted once more. The shadows that enveloped him began to recede, and I could sense the transformation taking place. He was no longer an ominous figure. Instead, he seemed to take on a more human-like form, a representation of the fears I had faced and the lessons I had learned. As I stood there, surrounded by my friends, I realized that we were all confronting our own versions of the mirror man. The clearing transformed into a space of collective empowerment, where each person began to speak their truth, acknowledging their fears and asserting their strength. Sarah stepped forward, her voice growing bolder as she declared her commitment to pursue her art. As the night deepened, the mirror man began to fade, merging back into the shadows from which he had come. But his presence lingered, transformed into a symbol of our growth and resilience. We had faced the darkness together, and in doing so, we had forged a bond that would carry us through whatever challenges lay ahead. As we stood in the clearing, no longer fearful but empowered, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey we had undertaken. The mirror man had served his purpose, revealing the truths we needed to confront and guiding us toward a path of growth and understanding. With hearts full of courage, we turned to leave the clearing, ready to embrace the light of a new dawn. The forest, once a place of fear and uncertainty, had become a sanctuary of hope and renewal. We had faced the mirror man and emerged transformed, ready to write our own stories and redefine what it meant to live boldly in the face of fear. As the first light of dawn broke over Hoosier National Forest, casting a warm glow across the landscape, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace wash over me. The night had been transformative, a powerful testament to the strength of community and the resilience of the human spirit. We had confronted our fears in the form of the mirror man. In facing him, we had not only confronted our personal demons, but had also woven a tapestry of shared experiences that connected us in ways we had never imagined. As I prepared to leave Hoosier National Forest, I felt a sense of gratitude for the lessons learned and the bonds forged. The forest. Don't hesitate to share your story. Join a community that encourages vulnerability and support, whether it's through local gatherings, online forums, or creative outlets. Embrace the power of connection, for it can turn your fears into catalysts for growth. Remember, you're not alone in this journey together. The clearing erupted into a chorus of voices, each declaration of strength echoing through the forest. The energy shifted, and I could feel the weight of our collective fears lifting, replaced by a sense of liberation and empowerment. We were no longer prisoners of our fears. We were warriors, ready to embrace the journey ahead. We can transform our struggles into strength. Take that brave step forward today and inspire others to do the same. Your story matters, and it has the potential to uplift and empower those around you. Marcus shared his desire to find closure regarding his father's disappearance, determined to honor his memory by living fully. The Mirror Man, now a figure of understanding rather than terror, nodded in recognition. You have faced your truths and emerged stronger. Fear will always exist, but it is your response to it that will define your path with those words. And in doing so, we had forged a deeper connection with one another and with ourselves. The journey had begun as a quest for adventure, a desire to unravel the mystery surrounding a local legend. However, it evolved into something much more profound, a collective exploration of vulnerability and growth. Each visit reminds me that the journey of growth is ongoing, and that we are all capable of transforming our fears into sources of strength. The forest continues to thrive, and so do we, forever intertwined in the stories that shape our lives. If you find yourself facing fears that hold you back, once a place of uncertainty had become a sanctuary of hope and renewal. I carried with me the understanding that true strength lies not in the absence of fear, but in the courage to confront it. With each step away from the clearing, I felt lighter, buoyed by the knowledge that I was not alone in my journey. We learned that the fears we carry often stem from our past experiences, our insecurities, and the expectations imposed upon us by society. By confronting these fears head-on, we could reclaim our narratives and redefine our identities. In the weeks following our encounter with the Mirror Man, the community flourished, but it no longer held the same power. Instead, it became a source of motivation, driving us to pursue the lives we truly desired. Looking back, I understood that the Mirror Man was never just a figure in a legend. He represented the universal struggle we all face, the battle against our own fears and doubts. Our gatherings became a safe haven where individuals could share their stories, support one another, and celebrate their victories, no matter how small. Sarah's art blossomed, becoming a medium through which she expressed her journey. Marcus found solace in sharing his father's stories, turning his grief into a legacy that would inspire others. Clara, too, began to heal, allowing herself to find joy in the memories of her husband rather than being consumed by loss. The impact of that night extended beyond the forest. It rippled through our lives in unexpected ways, encouraging us to take risks and embrace our passions. We realized that fear would always be a part of us. The community had become an integral part of my story, and I was eager to embrace the future, armed with the powerful truths we had uncovered together. The journey was far from over. It was merely the beginning of a new chapter, one where fear would no longer dictate my path, but rather serve as a guide toward growth and self-discovery. Years later, as I return to Hoosier National Forest, I see the familiar trees standing tall and proud. The community has grown even closer, bonded by the shared experience of confronting our fears. The legend of the Mirror Man has become a symbol of resilience, inspiring new generations to embrace vulnerability and seek connection.